Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we're zeroing in on the Palopo mayoral election, the one coming up in February 2025.
Right. And the source for this is pretty specific, a report from the Constitutional Court of Indonesia.
Exactly. And our mission really is to understand how an issue with a candidate's high school equivalency diploma, well, how it escalated into such a major court ruling.
It's interesting, isn't it? You think of diplomas as standard paperwork.
Yeah.
But here, it became like the central point of a legal fight that really impacts the election. Shows how even these basic requirements matter for democratic integrity.
Absolutely. The core issue is that the Constitutional Court disqualified a mayoral candidate, Trizal Tahir. And it was because of doubts surrounding his Packet C diploma. That's the Indonesian high school equivalency, right?
That's the one. And this wasn't seen as just, a small paperwork mistake.
No, clearly not. The court seemed to view it as hitting at the fairness of the election itself.
Definitely. So what were the specific problems? What red flags did the court actually see with this diploma?
Well, the court's report pointed out several key things.
Okay.
Things like the handwriting and even the formatting on Mr. Tahir's diploma. They look different compared to other diplomas from the same place, PKBM Iswaton Asana, from the same academic year.
Different how? Just slightly off? Or
Apparently noticeably different. And get this, the part saying who signed it was wrong too. It listed the Learning Center, the PKBM, instead of the North Jakarta Education Subdepartment, which was supposed to be the issuing authority.
Okay, wait. So we're not just talking a typo here.
No. It seems more fundamental. Differences in the actual document structure and issuing authority listed.
Right. And it gets, well, more complicated.
How so?
The exam codes. The ones printed on his diploma didn't actually match the codes that were expected for students from that specific learning center.
Another mismatch.
And maybe the biggest thing, his name wasn't found in the official digital records.
Which rec?
The ones held by the North Jakarta Education Subdepartment for PKBM Iswaton Hazana students, he just wasn't listed there.
Wow. Okay, missing from the official student database? That sounds pretty significant.
It does raise serious questions.
Now, I heard the head of the Learning Center, the PKBM, he tried to explain some of this.
Yes, Bonar Johnson. He testified, he basically said these were just, clerical errors, simple mistakes.
And that he could fix them.
Yeah, he offered to correct them. But, and this is crucial, his story clashed with what the Jakarta Education Office said.
What did they say?
They maintained that it was the education subdepartment, not the individual learning centers like PKBM, that was responsible for actually filling out the diplomas.
So conflicting testimony, right from the education authorities themselves.
Exactly, making it really tough for the court to figure out the true story.
And what about those student lists you mentioned? The ones where his name was missing?
That was another key piece. The official list of proposed exam participants for that year, 21/5/2016, from the North Jakarta Education Subdepartment.
Yeah.
It had 50 names. Trizal Tahir wasn't one of them.
Okay, but wasn't there another list?
Well, yes. Bonar Johnson, the PKBM head, he submitted a different list that did include Tahir's name.
So two lists, one official, one without him, one from the center head with him.
Right. And that inconsistency, it further weakened the credibility of the diploma in the court's eyes.
Okay, so putting it all together, multiple document inconsistencies, conflicting statements from officials, missing names on official lists.
Leads you to the court's conclusion. They basically said the authenticity of Trizal Tahir's Packet C diploma just couldn't be proven.
And that's why they disqualified him.
That's the core of it. Their legal argument hinged on the principle of honesty in elections.
Honesty? How so?
They argued that if you can't provide real, verifiable proof, you meet the requirements like basic education, then you're violating that principle. It undermines your whole candidacy.
Makes sense if you can't even prove you finished the equivalent of high school.
Right. It calls the legitimacy of the candidacy into question.
So the disqualification stands. What happens now in Palopo? What are the consequences for the election?
Well, the court didn't stop at just disqualifying him. They ordered the Palopo City Election Commission, the KPU, to hold a revote.
A whole new election. Wow.
A complete revote for the mayoral position, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, Trizal Tahir can't run in it.
And the parties that backed him.
They get a chance to nominate someone else, a new candidate.
Okay. And there's a timeline for this.
Yes. The revote has to happen within 90 days of the court's decision.
And oversight.
It'll be supervised by the national and provincial KPU, plus the election monitoring bodies. They're clearly taking this seriously.
It certainly sounds like it. A revote ordered over doubts about one document. It really underlines how seriously the court took these issues.
Absolutely. It's a strong reminder that these administrative checks verifying candidate credentials, they aren't just formalities.
They're crucial safeguards.
Exactly, for fair elections. And, the inconsistencies found here maybe suggest some weaknesses in how diplomas are verified more broadly. Might need a closer look nationally.
So let's recap quickly. The Constitutional Court found these significant problems, inconsistencies, conflicting stories around Trizal Tahir's diploma couldn't be proven authentic. So he's disqualified.
Right. And because of that, based on the principle of election honesty, Palopo has to hold a revote for mayor without him.
The court really prioritized that need for candidates to demonstrably, provably meet the requirement.
They did. It sets a clear standard.
This whole case, it really makes you think about all the layers involved in just verifying someone is qualified to run for office.
Yeah.
And how something that seems like a small detail on paper can ripple out and have these huge consequences.
Definitely food for thought.
So for you, the listener, what does this case tell you about how vital due diligence is? Checking and double-checking information, especially when the stakes are this high in democratic processes, something to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.